Dear Blizzard, oh my glob, excuse me for a minute, I just need to cool down every time I think about Akande Agundimu, aka Doomfist, because, I mean, look at this man! Look at him! My God! You know, between Doomfist and Sombra, I'm pretty certain Blizzard is trying to force me to side with Talon, regardless of their goals and motivations. I could use my politics brain to choose Wait, are Overwatch the good guys? I mean, I know they have ye olde Captain America and a cute English Time Lord, but we don't get a lot of exposition that clearly states that they're objectively good. I mean, yeah, Talon kills people and they have Grimmy McGrimdark on their team, but since when was killing people our measurement of goodness? I'm getting off track. Point is, Talon is officially Team Sexy, and they've got my science vote of support. Only like a minute into this and I'm already going off the rails. If I keep going, the get to the darn point already guys are gonna hit the comment section full force. So enough! You can read video titles and comprehend thumbnails, so you already know where I'm going with this. Doomfist! Doomfist was dropped on Overwatch, and oh my God, he is so friggin' fun! I'm objectively terrible with him because A, between VidCon, the flu, taking care of my baby, and trying to keep on top of science, I've been completely strapped for time and haven't been able to play Overwatch at all, and B, I'm just like the worst at DPS. Just terrible. Terrible! Regardless, that doesn't make punching people into walls and turning their organs into goo magically unfun. Those of you who have been following me for a while know that I have a weird fixation on punching in the Overwatch world, and boy howdy if Blizzard hasn't totally doubled down on that one this time. Today's question is a simple one. How possible are Doomfist's powers? And while this question is simple on the surface, once you peel back the layers and look at the physics, the answers are way more amazing than I could have ever imagined. Take a second and tell me what you think. Like the video if you think Doomfist is a totally plausible character, and subscribe to the Game Theorists channel by tap dancing on that subscribe button if you think that his powers instead make no freaking sense. The Doomfist we play as, Akande Agundimu, wasn't the first Doomfist. Hell, he's not even the second Doomfist. Doomfist is like the Dread Pirate Roberts, a title passed down from badass to badass along with a sweet-ass super techno gauntlet of doom. Agundimu was a competitive martial artist and executive in a prosthetics company before he lost his arm during the Omnic Crisis. You know, that big war between the robots everyone talks about where bastions turned humans into Swiss cheese before Overwatch became a thing? Anyway, TLDR, backstory, he fashioned himself a robotic prosthetic arm, murder deaths the first Doomfist that came before him, builds an immunity to iocane powder, claims the Doomfist gauntlet, gets thrown into the slammer by Overwatch, literally punches his way out of prison, got the gauntlet back, ripped off Tracer's chrono accelerator in what may be the single most savage scene I've seen in a video game story since Geralt of Rivia Dutch oven a dude's face off, went against the Sicilian when death was on the line, rejoined Talon as one of its leaders, and boom! Here we are. I always thought it was funny that in an age with pulse rifles and guns capable of making black holes, Genji chooses to use a sword and his brother chooses to use a bow and frickin' arrow. But considering Doomfist decides to walk around mostly naked, punching cyborgs, girls in mech suits, and Captain America in the face over and over until they die, I think we may have a new contender for completely reckless badass. Doomfist has several abilities, but we're gonna be looking closely at two specifically. His rocket punch, where he charges his fist up, flies forward, and hits his opponent like a runaway ice cream truck, and his ultimate, Meteor Strike, where for some unknown reason, this master martial artist jumps into the sky and crashes into the ground, wrecking anyone who's even remotely close to the epicenter and sending the rest flying. We're gonna start with Rocket Punch because this thing is a frickin' beast. At full charge, this thing launches Doomfist forward 20 meters in a fifth of a second. That's 100 meters per second, or over 200 miles per freaking hour. Oh God. Already we're starting to get into some trouble, because accelerating up to these speeds this quickly means he's gonna be pulling over 200 frickin' G's. Holy crap. But fine, whatever. He's not pulling these G's for too terribly long, and from the looks of things, Doomfist has replaced parts of his body with cybernetics. So, who the heck knows what kind of things his body can tolerate? This ain't the bad part. Not even frickin' close. We are just getting started. What I want to know is how powerful this thing is. Yeah, it's capable of one-shotting people, especially if they get slammed into a wall in the process. And that really doesn't tell us much. You right there could kill someone in one punch. Well, probably. I guess if your arms are really noodly, probably not. My baby ain't killing anybody in any amount of punches anytime soon. But the human body is pretty susceptible to trauma. It's remarkably easy to kill us. Violence carries along with it risk. While deaths from punches aren't incredibly common, they're not that rare. Anyway, I want to know how strong the punch is. I mean, when you knock someone into a wall, it cracks. It leaves a freaking tiny crater. Isn't that kind of ridiculous? To answer that, we're gonna have to crunch the numbers, which means we're gonna have to bust out two of Overwatch's resident rulers, Roadhog and Lucio. Lucio makes an amazing ruler these days. Ever since Blizzard patched the game so you could see the radius of his area of effect, you can just drop him anywhere and get precise as heck measurements. Thank the fluffy lord! But why do we need Roadhog? Because while we have our distance ruler down pat, in order to get numbers worth a damn, we're gonna need more than distance. We're gonna need something to measure mass, which brings us Roadhog, one of the only characters with a known canon weight. During the newscast for Roadhog and Junkrat's trailer, briefly, ever so briefly, they give us Roadhog's weight, 550 pounds. Or, since we're doing science, 249 kilograms. Knowing this and having our super duper awesome ruler that is Lucio, with our powers combined, we can figure out how powerful Doomfist is. But first, we're gonna have to talk about my current favorite field of science, tribology. Tribology is basically the study of how things rub against each other. Shut up! Stop your snickering back there! Anyway, for our intended purposes, we're just gonna have to cover the basics. Now, a lot of times when I've talked about the physics of stuff moving in past videos, I've been calculating the energies and forces in a frictionless environment. It's simpler, and for most applications, the physics are good enough. But we don't live in a frictionless world. We have trees, air, dirt, and just like all sorts of crap everywhere. Okay, so for example, we have a Roadhog weighing 249 kilograms, just standing there, right? Call back to my ancient buddy, Isaac Newton, and his first law of motion: a thing that ain't moving will stay not moving until something makes it move. Now, in Newtonian models, Roadhog actually has two forces working on him. There's a force of gravity pulling him down at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. This can be written as a force, which is just mass times acceleration. This gives us 2,444 newtons. Now, obviously, Roadhog isn't shooting down a bottomless pit of despair. The ground is pushing back up on him with an equal force, which cancels out the force of gravity. Ergo, dude isn't moving. So, there's one force of 2,444 newtons pushing down and 2,444 pushing up. These two forces together are what's called the normal force, and this is the basic premise behind friction. It doesn't matter much when you're just standing still, but as soon as you start introducing forces that run perpendicular to these, they can make a big difference. Tribology, shut up, tells us that objects sliding against each other, I said shut up, will be affected by these opposing forces. Different objects and surfaces have different levels of slip that are dependent upon a ton of factors. How wet they are, stop it, how smooth they are, how hard they are, all these things can be measured and they're quantified in what's called the coefficient of friction. This number is different depending upon which two objects are being rubbed together, hence the co in coefficient, but basically it represents a percentage of the normal force that must be met in order to accelerate something you want to move. There are actually two different coefficients of friction, the coefficient for budging, which governs what we'll call the budging force, and the coefficient of friction, which governs the friction force. You see, it takes more energy to get something that's stationary to start moving than it does to keep something moving that is already moving. So, in order for a fist to move Roadhog at all, it has to overcome this budging force. And that's before we even get Roadhog up to speed or smash him into walls with deadly force. So, what is this budging force? Well, we already have a ton of different surfaces to choose from, but I'm gonna go with the tried and true skin and road model, which is used to measure how much skin you'll lose if you hit pavement. Fun! This works because I did my testing in Lijiang Tower, which is a real place. Well, Lijiang is, anyway. The old town of Lijiang has cobbled streets made of unknown stone. And before you tribology experts out there try to point out the cobble effect, forget it! I've got a life to live and I can't just fly off to China and run friction experiments. Anyway, Road to Skin gives us a coefficient of budging of 0.85 and 0.8 for friction. Meaning just to get Roadhog moving from his stationary position, you gotta hit him with 2,078 newtons. And that barely gets him to move. Just the smidgiest of smidges. That's basically a professional bodybuilder at peak performance giving Roadhog the hardiest shove they possibly can. But that's not what our magnificent Doomfist does to Roadhog. This is the basicest, the smallest amount of force necessary to move Roadhog at all. But that ain't what Doomfist does. Doomfist frickin' destroys folks that he hits. And we have numbers for that, and my god, they are inconceivable. Using Lucio's radius as a measuring device and knowing that the radius of his area of influence is 10 meters, we can figure out exactly how fast Roadhog is moving when he gets hit by Doomfist. And from here, pinpoint exactly how hard Doomfist's fists are hitting people. Conveniently, at full power, Doomfist launches Roadhog forward 10 meters. 10 frickin' meters in under a fifth of a second. Now, Roadhog moves at a consistent speed this entire time, but in reality, he would start moving at a speed the instant he's struck by the fist and immediately begin to slow down due to friction from air and from the street. Using the power of science, we can determine that this initial speed he'd have to be traveling at is 53 meters per second, or over 118 miles per frickin' hour. Holy crap! In order to get all 249 kilograms of man meat that is Roadhog moving this fast, this quickly, Doomfist's fist would have to be applying over 300 kilonewtons of force to Roadhog. That's the kind of force you'd feel if you got in a car accident going over 300 kilometers per hour. That makes the 2 kilonewtons of budging force look like a drop in the frickin' bucket. And remember Doomfist? He ain't a car, and while we established that he's capable of traveling over 100 meters per second with his fisty fist, in order to impart this much force into Roadhog and by contrast avoid breaking every bone in his own body, his fist, that gauntlet of hell, would have to weigh over 133 kilograms or over 294 frickin' pounds. That's a hell of a lot of weight to have dangling on just one side of your body. How is he not tipping over? Speaking of tips, if Doomfist slammed into Roadhog with this much force from his fist, he'd find himself about elbow deep in Roadhog's guts because of one terrifying thing: pressure. Pressure is force over an area. 2 kilonewtons spread over your whole body would probably push you over, or at least make you take a few steps back. 2 kilonewtons condensed into the space the size of a needle? That'll rip through your body like a frickin' bullet. Area means everything, and Doomfist's fist is way smaller than a car. Measuring the surface of his fist at roughly 1,600 square centimeters, a fist hitting Roadhog this hard would be imparting 1.26 megapascals of pressure into Roadhog's chest. This is as much pressure as is in the average human bite, which, sure, that doesn't sound that intense, but I want you to do something for me right now. Bite into your hand like it's a sandwich. Or just think back to the last time you accidentally bit your tongue or cheek or lip while you were eating. It friggin' hurts, doesn't it? Now, imagine that feeling spread out in 1 square foot in the center of your chest. Your teeth are capable of chewing through meat like it's nothing, and that's exactly what Doomfist's fist would be doing to whomever he hits it with, ripping them open like a gutted fish. While covering your characters in the entrails of their defeated enemies goes against Overwatch's cartoon aesthetic, that's totally what would be happening. And that's not to mention his ultimate attack, which is freaking, ah! Doomfist's ultimate has him jumping into the air and slamming into the ground, sending out shockwaves of death like he's some sort of freaking hand grenade in human form. Ignoring again how this should definitely be turning all his internal organs into goo as he hits the ground at over 166 Gs, this move is way more terrifying than his mega punch. Sure, his punch is like a weaponized car accident, but if we figure Doomfist is roughly as tall as Roadhog at 2.2 meters, we can figure he's hitting the ground at a speed of over 46 meters per second. Somehow he doesn't die because space magic, but that doesn't mean the effects aren't just the worst. Roadhog, if hit dead center, flies 8 meters away in a quarter of a second. Sounds better than getting punched directly then, right? No, because the force that sends him back doesn't come directly from the fist. It comes from the seismic waves caused by the impact. 212 kilonewtons of force coming not from a direct hit, but from the energy imparted into the ground. Using average soil density of 1,300 kilograms per cubic meter, a seismic P-wave with a velocity of 70 meters per second, a period of 0.07 seconds, an amplitude of a quarter of a meter, and a frequency of 87 hertz, which you'll have to just trust me on because I'm running out of time, would be imparting over 139,000 joules of energy into the surrounding area. That's the strength of a freaking meteor hitting the ground. Meteor strike is freaking right. But this isn't just a danger to folk caught in the blast radius. An impact like this would be creating a 150 decibel sound wave due to the seismic waves acting like a giant speaker, condensing the air and creating sound waves. No, not sound waves, a shock wave. Anyone within 100 meters would be at risk for having their eardrums bursting. This sound would be so loud that if Doomfist were to land a meteor strike in my town of Champaign, Illinois, you'd be able to hear it all the way in London. Canada, London, the one in Canada near Toronto. My aunt in Minneapolis, Trump in Washington, D.C., people everywhere from here to Atlanta, Georgia would be opening their doors going, what the heck was that? Is it the communists? Are we under attack? To Blizzard's credit, they give Doomfist ear protection. It's like they knew. They thought of everything except how to model the bloody guts of Tracer's insides all over the metal sheen of Doomfist's gauntlet. Ah, well. So, there you have it. Doomfist, far from being a wimp that everyone tolerates, is probably the single most dangerous character in Overwatch. That is, if he can get close enough to you to hit you at all. And honestly, if we take for granted that he'd need to have his internal organs replaced with robot organs in order to survive the impact forces and G-forces from his fists, he's surprisingly plausible for a superhero or villain, whatever. I can't keep track of Talon's misdeeds when there are these beautiful, beautiful abs to consider. Sincerely, Austin. Thank you everyone for watching my episode on Doomfist. Subscribe to the Game Theorists channel if you haven't yet. You should. 8 million of you. Most of you probably are already. But if you're not, you should. It's right down there. You get awesome stuff from me and Matt Pat. And it's just a good old time. More science and more theories and Gaijin Goomba and all the fun stuff. And woo! I'm all sweaty from yelling so much. Overwatch scares me. Be sure to watch some of my other videos on Overwatch and stuff. Yeah, and Matt Pat didn't do one yet. Someday he will. I'll make him.
Hey, Matt Pat, do an Overwatch episode, okay, buddy? Alright, bye.